What up, Blockheads? Today we're doing a how-to on installing some drag bars on the Harley Iron 883. Basically gonna walk you guys through installing some new drag bars, some new bars, and some new grips as well. I do know that mic quality on these has been kind of talked about previously, so I need to set something up there in the future, but for now, this is what we got. We're gonna install these later. Some Arlen Ness little LED turn signals. So the drag bars are from JP Cycles. They are 32 inches wide, and they have 4.5 inches of pullback. Whenever you get them, they do come in this little sock. So we're going to be undoing the little rubber bands at each end, and they are hardy. They look nice. And then the grips, pretty much all nicely wrapped up at the moment, are you're going to have your right side grip, the spots for your throttle cable, and your left side grip, and it does come with some adhesive in there as well. I'll put parts numbers and all that good stuff in the description below. JP Cycles part number is right there, SKU 1018307. Arlen Ness Fusion Series K. Yeah, I got these off of Amazon, so they're knurled grips. Link to those in the description. Tools wise, shouldn't be too crazy. We're going to be using the T25 and T27 torx bits. I ain't face them downwards because those are the ones we're using basically on the controls. So for like here and here, and just like a screwdriver ending to hold those. We're going to be using a ratchet extension if needed. We've got a hex bit socket. Basically starting off, I'm going to remove the grips first. So while the handlebars are still tight on this one, I go ahead and remove the grips off of this. So we're going to take the controls off, take the grips off, and then we'll take off the handlebars. Since we are going to be using lots of tools and lots of movement on the handlebars, go ahead and like throw a towel or something over your tank just to protect it so it doesn't get all scratched up, especially if you have a denim tank or a matte black or matte paint. It sucks. It scratches so easily. So yeah, let's get to it. Untightening some of these bits. We're also gonna have to pull that out of the bars. At this point, you're gonna use the torx bits to loosen the controls up here. And the bolts here are retained, so they're not going to fall out. Set those aside, grab the other torx bit to loosen up the controls that are attached to the throttle. These are not retained, so be sure you store these in a safe place. One on the top, one on the bottom. And whenever you start to pull these apart, they're not going to fall apart from one another because they're connected via the wiring. Now with this, you're going to want to loosen the throttle cable. So you're going to loosen this nut. You're going to want to loosen the cable so you have room to work with so you can get those out. So use a couple wrenches, loosen that nut there. And what you're doing is you're going to basically collapse this cable and lengthen it so that you have some room to work with. So basically collapse that all the way down. And that's going to give you much more wiggle room so that you can get those throttle cables off. I used some needle nose pliers while I twisted it around and pulled it over. This little brass fitting is going to fit right out of the side of it. And be careful with these because they do come off. You do not want to lose them. On this one you can kind of see a little more how it works. Pull it up out of the channel, pull that little brass fitting off. Once again, do not lose it. Just drape that there to the side. Grip comes right off. Alright, so this side we're pretty much doing the same thing. Loosening up these screws. If you want to go ahead and pull these out of the handlebars so the wires aren't connecting, you can go ahead and do that too. Alright, so this side's pretty much taken off. Same process as the last side. Come apart just like this. Just let that hang there just like that. Now this one I believe is glued on, but there is a way that you can kind of wiggle it off. We'll see if we can get that off, and I'll show you guys basically how to remove the grips entirely. A lot of people, like if your grips aren't glued on, you can actually just like pull them really hard from here, both fingers. These appear to be glued on because they're not moving at all. So what you can do is if you have like the little spray can of WD-40, you can stick that little tube into there and let it set for a little bit, and it should loosen it up little by little. Alternative, if you guys don't want the stock grips, you can just take a razor blade, cut them down if you're replacing your grips on this set of bars. I'm gonna try and get this off anyways, even though I'm not gonna be using these bars just to, like I said, show you guys to do that. I'm gonna try and use just a really small flat blade screwdriver. Actually, you know what? I might even just use this just to break some of that glue up, you know? Now, it might scratch the underneath on the bars, but you're not gonna be seeing that, so it shouldn't really matter. There we go. Taken off. That's it. That's how you remove that grip if you want to keep it intact and not cut it off. Alright, so at this point, go ahead and take the bolts back out of your clamp, and your bars should come right off. There you go, stock bars. Looks funny without them, huh? And naked. Alright, so at this point, we're going to take our new bars, and we're going to go ahead and start putting them on. Make sure everything's cleaned up, out of the way. Make sure it's ready to accept the new ones, and yeah, start putting them on. Then we'll start lining everything up. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this off. Alright, you're gonna wanna make sure the knurling is centered up, so, you know, use whatever spacing method you can. And it's gonna pretty much catch right off the bat. Now don't tighten them down, you're gonna wanna loosely put everything on here. Alright, nice and loose. Alright, now let's start putting everything on the bars. Now this is going to be a little tricky lining everything else kind of back up. You're going to want to make sure that you run this line inside of the dimple that's under here, which you can see right there. You're going to have the clamp here lined up with the dimple kind of like that, and you're going to want that line to go underneath it, set up like that. Right, you're going to take the new grip. So reinstalling these, you're going to want to put the grip back on the handle. You're going to get those little brass fittings, and you're going to put it back over the throttle cable. Bring the controls back up to your grip. Place the little brass fitting on, and you're going to make sure that the open side is facing towards the grip. Bring it around, be sure the cable is in the channel. And you're going to do the same thing to the other side. Once again, make sure the open side is towards the grip. I wasn't able to get it enough with my fingers, so I did use some needle nose pliers to pull the cable up and seat it in the channel correctly, in the little track. At this point, you're going to pull the controls back over, making sure that everything lines up and that it's over the grip. And you're going to loosely start to put the screws back in. Once again, keyword here is loosely. You're not tightening anything down at this point. So just get everything kind of loosely seated in there. See, nice and loose. At this point, we're going to put the brake and the mirrors back on. You're going to want to make sure that little notch lines up. Put this part of the handlebar back on. Once again, loosely tightening it down. Do not tighten it down all the way. You want it to be loose, so you have room to kind of fit everything together. Squeeze everything in, make sure that everything's lining up correctly. And then snug it down a little bit more, but once again, you still want it loose. You're going to want to make sure you can hear that click sound, the little tick, which means the brake button is being actuated. Good to go. Alright, so nice and loose, nothing's tightened down. At this point, you're going to readjust your throttle cable. So adjust it back up until you have a little bit of play. You don't want no play at all. Once you've got it to your liking, bring that nut back up, and you're going to tighten everything back down. Just the opposite direction. Tighten it up. Make sure it snaps back to 0. I'm going to go over this again because it's very important. You can also see the throttle cable in here, making sure that it snaps back to 0. Got everything pretty much lined up. 2 bolts in here, little notch right there is lined up. The brake lever is hitting the switch. You guys can hear the little click, which is it basically activating that switch. So that's all lined up. Like I said, everything's just very loose still. I'm just gonna leave everything very loose until the very end. And then once it's all set up on that side as well, we're gonna tighten it all down. So it should all snug down and line up perfect. You've got that little part of the wire going through that dimple right there. So everything's lining up nicely. So regarding drag bars, there is the concern about the brake line right here. So this is what everybody's talking about whenever they say it kind of kinks it. However, it does bend very smoothly. Looks fine. People have said they've installed drag bars, and while it does look like it might kink up, that it's no issue. That's the brake line as of right now, and it shouldn't really be forced any further down than that. But I mean, that's probably the biggest concern for installing drag bars. But that, as of right now, like it's a smooth flow. There's no like real kink to it, so it should be okay. We're pretty much going to repeat what we just did on the right side, except for not having to mess with the throttle cables on the left side here, so it should be even easier. And then we're going to fit on the new grip for this side, which is actually a glued grip. It's not retained by this little piece. You can buy grips that are. Mine is not, so I'm just going to have to glue it. All right, we're going to start getting this side back together. Time lapse it. All right, so everything's kind of loose still. This comes with the glue. They're saying you basically have one shot to get it on there with the glue. Just gonna bottom out right there. Using sandpaper to achieve a clean surface and to attach the new grip, you have one opportunity to install the left side grip properly. Once you stop moving grip into position, the glue used will set up instantly, locking the grip into place. Apply the glue to the inside of the grip, and in one swift movement, slide the grip onto the handlebar in the correct position. Wipe off any excess glue in between the grip and the switch housing. It's pretty much, it looks like super glue. I'm pretty damn sure it's super glue. All right, at this point, you're gonna wanna, what I did is I got on the bike, lifted it up, loosened these bolts, and I centered the bars up. To center them up, I actually kept an eye on the knurling right here, and made sure it was kind of the same on both sides. And then I adjusted the bars to the angle that I wanted. And then since the switches were loose, I adjusted these this way until they were both even. And after that, I kind of snugged these down a little more. Right, so this one on top, this one on bottom, and these here too, and that one, and that one as well. Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll kind of start slowly tightening everything down, starting with here. But everything seems to be going all right wiring wise. Like I said, brake line looks fine. Clearance is all good on that side and on this side. So we're good there with everything clearance wise. So far, so good. So you basically want to make sure that the throttle is snapping back and you've got a little bit of play. Yeah, just find like how much take-up you like. I like about that much. And then just retighten it back down. Now you just want to make sure that's snapping back to zero so that if you let off the throttle, you don't keep going. Alright, tighten, 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 tighten. Good. Good here. Lines. All good. Probably zip tie those. All right, yo, there she is. Drag bars on, new grips, some Arlen Ness, knurled, nice ones, knurled. Clearance is all good with wiring. Brake line's good there. Still works, still works. All right, that's it, yo. Good to go. Cool, well, hope you guys have enjoyed the tutorial. We're gonna go ride it and see how it feels. See if we need to make any adjustments from there, but yeah. Hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have any questions, post them up in the comments below and I will answer them to the best of my abilities. Until next time, if you guys enjoyed the video, like I said, be sure to go ahead and hit that like button. If you aren't subscribed already, go ahead and be sure to hit that subscribe button as well. And until next time, you guys ride safe, stay vigilant. I'll catch y'all later. Deuces.